Thank you. Thank you to Hazel and Jay for being so supportive of my writing for so many years. Too many years, maybe. From what I can tell, I take long showers, but I don't spend much time washing. Often I only wash a few parts of myself, not necessarily the same few parts. First, I stand under the hot water for a few minutes looking down blankly at my stomach and legs. I don't wet my hair right away. Maybe I think about something that I already regret saying last night. Maybe I obsess over how I could have phrased it differently, and I get a little defensive on my own behalf. It was hard to express. Of course it came out wrong. What can they expect? What can I expect? It's not as if there's a script for saying things exactly right. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone says things they shouldn't. Why should I bother regretting it? It's stupid to dwell on this. I should just let it go. It's no big deal. I can't believe I'm still thinking about this. I can't believe I said that. It might have been really hurtful. Why did I say that? What was I thinking? Why can't I keep my fucking mouth shut? Eventually, I scrub an armpit. I stretch one arm over my head and hold my palm against the moldy shower wall and lather for longer than necessary for almost a minute or two. Then I scrub the other armpit. The skin in my armpits has been flaky and itchy for a while now, maybe a few years on and off. I wonder if this is caused by my deodorant or if it's biological or environmental. I wonder this almost every morning. I close my eyes and wash my face. I pass the soap over my belly and shoulders and arms. I almost never soap my feet or ankles or legs. Yellow dust falls out of my ceiling. My desk gets covered in this grainy dust, and I wipe it clean every few days. I actually don't know if dust is the right word. It looks more like sand, and it's not a uniform yellow. It's more like light brown and dark brown and yellow mixed with black specks, but it feels like yellow is the dominant color. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I think about the yellow dust. Specifically, I think, will breathing the yellow dust while I sleep make me sick? And then I think, has breathing the yellow dust while I sleep already made me sick? How sick am I? Was it okay to invite my girlfriend Ida here to stay with me for a week when there's yellow dust falling out of my ceiling? What was I thinking? What if, years from now, she suddenly experiences a shock of terrible abdominal pain and falls to the ground and we call an ambulance and the doctors can't find anything wrong and the pain passes and it never happens again, but I secretly can't stop wondering to myself if it's the sign of something worse, and I'm sure she's wondering the same thing. How many nights can she sleep here before it's dangerous? Is even one night dangerous? I wish you were here right now, that we didn't live on separate continents. I wish we were showering together. I wish I was washing her hair, standing behind her while she hangs her head and scrunches her eyes, and the water streams down her face and back and arms, and I gather her heavy, wet, long hair in my hands and run my fingers through it until the shampoo is rinsed away. There's a tiny dark window in the bathroom. The glass is so dusty that the light barely streams through. We're a little shiny from the water and the soap. I press myself against her. When it's my turn to wash, I pretend that I usually wash my whole body. I pay special attention to my legs. I scrub them with exaggerated thoroughness as she stands there waiting for her turn to get back under the water. We chat. She holds me from behind. She kneads my head. I raise my arm and she washes my armpit. She has one arm around me. She kisses my back. I moan because it feels good to be kissed, to be washed, to be loved, and I want her to know how good it feels, but I moan softly under my breath, and I don't know if she can hear it over the running water, so I do it again, just a little louder, and I don't know if she hears this time either. My friend Jordan told me a funny story about Heath Ledger's death. He was walking around Soho and happened to pass the luxury apartment building where Ledger overdosed. There were a few hundred people lingering outside. Jordan approached a woman at the back of the crowd and asked her what was going on. "Heath Ledger died," she said. Then she paused and added, "I'm glad he's dead." I met my friend Lydia for a beer, and she told me about her new relationship. He lives abroad, he's 40 years her senior, and he makes her very happy, even though it's difficult to live so far apart. But she's heartened and excited by their ability to manage unhappiness, to talk openly about intractable problems. She said, quote, "In some couples, you have this wind shear effect. What I mean is, both of you can have intense fears, but the fears are not complementary. Wind shear, that's the word. You know that? You don't know that word? I always forget what it means. I've looked it up several times. It has something to do with physics. You know, two things that are very strong that move past each other in opposite directions and affect each other. Something to do with air pressure. Two things that come into contact and this creates friction, tension, something like that. Anyway, you know, moving outside of the metaphor, we just have these moments of recognizing that we haven't been communicating. When we slow down, we realize that something we may have been very scared of doesn't have a home in the other person. But no, I wasn't scared of getting together with someone older than me. And I was thinking about this recently, about how I wasn't scared, because he and I were talking about death, actually. We have to talk about it. We can't ignore that conversation. I mean, it's not like we think about it every day, but we also don't want to repress it. Because, you know, it's real, and there's real grief in it for me. I mean, something could happen and we could go our separate ways in 2 weeks. But assuming that doesn't happen, I don't think I've ever experienced the limit of human life like this before. It's very simple. It's impossible that he'll know me when I'm the age he is now. And so, in a way, his age gives us access to, or it allows us to live in, a different kind of time, an urgent kind of time. But actually, that urgent kind of time is what we should be living in anyway, but we can't, because life is exhausting. I mean, for all I know, I'll drop dead in a few months. Listen, Steve, in the last 3 or 4 days, I've heard of 3 people dropping dead. One guy my age of an aneurysm, one woman, a friend of a friend downstairs, she was about 50, she just died in her sleep overnight, and another one I can't remember. And so all of a sudden, it seemed like the world was calling on us to address the question of death, and that's why we were talking about it again. I mean, sure, anyone could fall ill, anyone could drop dead. I could drop dead tomorrow, but it's more likely for an older person. I wonder why I'm not more perturbed by this stuff. Maybe because my mother died when my sister was still a teenager, and so I became a half-mom. And while I was learning to be a half-mom, I was also dealing with legal stuff in Greece. Maybe that was good practice or good experience in taking care of others or just dealing with shit. But listen, Steve. My father is 65, and he's not particularly healthy, but somehow he's constitutionally hardy in a way I'm not. I'm just not. It probably has to do with growing up in a Greek fishing village. You know, he didn't wear shoes, breathed the air, was kind of a peasant, lived outdoors. You know, there's a certain hardiness in people who are a lot older and who lived outside, got more sun, didn't wear shoes, didn't consume as many hormones. Who knows? So what I'm saying about loving someone older than me is that for someone older than me, he's actually very sturdy. He has way more energy than I do. It's one of those things. If something happens tomorrow, maybe I would fall apart. Maybe I'd run away. I don't know. But all you have at your disposal is everything you've already lived, your experience and memory. That's it. And either it's sufficient or it's not. End quote. That's not quite what wind shear is. I looked it up later. According to weatherquestions.com, the term refers to an unpredictable shift in wind speed or direction over horizontal or vertical distances, which can cause a rapid change in lift and altitude for aircraft. So Lydia's metaphor doesn't really work. But I like metaphors that don't work. They bring distant things together without subsuming one into the other, amplifying their differences while establishing a skewed relation. Even better, this metaphor also fails by working too well. It could be applicable to most any situation. It's simultaneously obvious and abstruse. You know what she's saying about how misunderstandings evolve from lopsided communication, and yet it's hard to draw any specific insights from the comparison between human love relationships and weather. That's why I like it so much. It reaffirms a general idea, but inconclusively, as if abstract generalizations could be real and true, but only as details in stories traversed with other details, some of which cluster together as if seeking commonality, and some of which float away. Thank you.